President Biden addresses America, outlining how he plans to support Israel in its war against Hamas and head off a humanitarian disaster in Gaza. Here at home, mosques and synagogues prepare to protect their people if hate and violence walk in the door.
It saddens and frankly it angers me that I have to spend time as a rabbi on safety and security.
The Republican from Colorado blocking an ultra-conservative House Speaker says he's receiving death threats and getting evicted. I'll have some thoughts about how violent threats are becoming common in Colorado politics. Fact-checking another ad making out-of-context claims about the biggest issue on your ballot. And you've raised $10,000 in a day for the women helping other women in crisis in our community. Because why just watch when we can improve our state together? Because this is next. President Joe Biden's address to the nation minutes ago drew a straight line from the wars in Israel and Ukraine, describing them as democracies worth defending from terrorists and thugs. And the president said America is their indispensable ally.
American leadership is what holds the world together. American alliances are what keep us, America, safe. American values are what make us a partner that other nations want to work with. To put all that at risk if we walk away from Ukraine, if we turn our backs on Israel, it's just not worth it.
Biden says he will be seeking an aid package from Congress to help Ukraine, Israel, and Palestinian civilians in Gaza. That funding cannot pass Congress right now because Republican infighting has left the House without a speaker. Without a speaker, the House cannot pass bills. In a moment, we're going to hear from a Republican from Colorado who's blocking a far-right speaker from taking power. Tonight, the president also condemned anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. He said that in America, everyone belongs. The war in the Middle East is having very real impacts on safety and security at Jewish and Muslim places of worship in Colorado. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
A sanctuary. It can be a place for reflection.
Houses of worship should be free and open spaces.
A sanctuary can be a place of refuge and protection.
For Jews and other religious minorities, going to our houses of worship is not something that we can take for granted from a safety standpoint.
At the Hebrew Educational Alliance in Southeast Denver, Rabbi Solomon Gruenwald empowers his congregation with information not seen in many places deemed a sanctuary.
So we have these informational cards, and they have two sides to them.
One side is welcoming, about the synagogue being inclusive and diverse, with all gender restrooms and gender pronoun pins.
The other side of this card has some basic advice that we got from the FBI and other law enforcement agencies about some steps that people can take in the event of violence breaking out at the synagogue.
Tucked inside the prayer books are laminated cards describing how a congregant can run, hide, and fight in the event of a violent threat. And then it explains how to stop the bleed.
Yeah, nobody wants to come to synagogue or to their house of worship and think about the possibility that they would be putting a tourniquet on somebody whose arm has been blown off. It saddens and frankly it angers me that I have to spend time as a rabbi on safety and security.
But at each service, the rabbi draws brief attention to the card that draws your attention.
It's a good time to check out those blue cards in the pews to review our safety guidelines. When people are empowered with information, they can be part of the solution.
Security at the mosque has really never changed.
Prayer service at the mosque off Parker Road in Arapahoe County does not have the same safety and security cards in your face, but safety and security are always front and center.
We've always maintained a sense of needing to keep our congregation safe. We have a 40-year relationship with the Sheriff's Department, and we have made sure that they have a constant presence here at the mosque, especially on Fridays and holidays.
Democratic State Representative Iman Judah is in a position to help Muslims pray in a space that can remain a sanctuary. Last year, she co-sponsored a bill that allowed places like mosques to apply for grant money to enhance security measures. The money is set aside for nonprofits that are at risk of a terrorist attack.
It was a great bill that increased security for houses of worship. We want to make sure that this place remains a sanctity and a sanctuary for all Muslims.
That grant program offers up to $50,000 to places of worship and other nonprofits for security enhancements, training, even contracting outside security. It has a total of $500,000 set aside. So if everybody got the max, that's just 10 places that could get the money.
Yeah, and you spend all that money with the hope that It's never actually going to be needed, but we have seen in Colorado's history, especially with Christian churches, which we didn't just discuss there, that they can be targets.
Like New Life Church. I was working in Colorado Springs when New Life Church happened, and that you had armed security at that place. But look at the pamphlet at the synagogue is probably the least expensive thing you could have, and it might be the most helpful in terms of educating.
Sure, absolutely. Marshall, thank you. So Colorado's coming off of a record year for reported hate crimes, and the FBI says it's seen a recent increase in threats against Jewish, Muslim, and Arab communities. FBI is just out with its annual report tracking crime, and it shows last year law enforcement in our state saw the highest number of hate crime reports in the 32 years they've tracked those. 317 reported hate crimes in Colorado, 17% increase from the year before. FBI says a bit more than half were based on racial or ethnic bias. Coalition of civil rights groups, Hate Free Colorado, says the FBI's numbers are likely low due to a lack of reporting. Their statewide survey last year found only 18% of people who said that they had experienced a hate crime actually reported it. A Coloradan who is at the center of the internal Republican fight over the House Speaker job says that it has now devolved into death threats and retribution. Congressman Ken Buck is a leader of the opposition to the far-right Speaker candidate Jim Jordan. Buck says that Republicans have got to move away from the election rigging lies and justifying the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Several Republicans blocking Jordan's speakership say they are now receiving threats to themselves, their spouses, and their children.
So far, I've had 4 death threats. I've been evicted from my office in Colorado. I have notice of an eviction because the landlord is mad with my voting record on the speaker issue. There are a lot of TV pundits, there are a lot of radio pundits, there are a lot of grassroots groups that are putting out misinformation and hateful information, and it just stirs people up.
Hearing that Congressman Ken Buck and other Republicans are being threatened with violence by extremists within their own party is no surprise. For years, we've been documenting here the rise of violent political rhetoric and thinly veiled threats in Colorado politics. There are the militia-connected Coloradans involved in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. There's the conservative activist who listed the names of the political opponents he wanted killed. That earned him a nomination for governor at the Republican State Assembly. There was the House GOP leader who published the home address of a journalist in retaliation for a story. There are the election conspiracy theorists openly hinting at hanging Colorado's Secretary of State. The head of the Parker Republicans put out the home addresses of public health workers, promising that they would face retribution from patriots. Talk radio hosts here demanded the names of school teachers involved in a protest so that parents could, quote unquote, confront them. The last head of the state Republican Party came straight from an extremist group that has an affiliated militia. And Colorado's elections officials are physically fortifying their offices right now to prepare for attacks. This is all dangerous stuff, and you can see where it's headed. It's also clear that journalists and the public ignoring it or minimizing it is not going to make it stop. The plan of action for the Denver mayor's #1 priority is now shifting. Mayor Mike Johnson is building microcommunities for people who are currently living on the streets. He got $7 million from City Council for pallet shelters. Well, now the mayor's office says they're looking at a different option. Kelly Rinke has that story.
Pallet shelters for the unhoused aren't a new idea. Aurora opened a community more than a year ago.
People want to go to those. They offer a lot more privacy, a lot more dignity for folks.
Emma Knight runs homelessness programs for the city. She says more than half of the people who move into a pallet shelter in Aurora move out and into permanent housing,
which is a pretty high percentage. I think the national average is, at least in 2022, was like 33.9%.
Now Denver wants to test out this idea too. Mayor Mike Johnston's office planned to put pallet shelters into micro-communities, up to twice as many as Aurora. City Council approved up to $7 million for 200 pallets, but this week the mayor's office said they don't plan to spend that much money. They prefer something else.
These units also have a 1-hour fire-rated wall, and that allows us to stack them more densely, and so we can get more units on a site.
The mayor's go-to guy for homelessness initiatives asked city council members to approve another contract for 300 manufactured sleeping units. They're essentially small cabins. A third of them would go to this site off Santa Fe.
The pallet homes require us to separate units by 10 feet. We can separate these units by 5 feet, and so it allows us to serve more people on the same piece of land.
Council approved that contract too. The sleeping units and pallet shelters are part of the mayor's goal to house 1,000 people by the end of this year. It's a bold idea. Aurora is watching closely.
I'm interested to see how it turns out.
As for the $7 million contract for pallet shelters, the mayor's office said they now plan to only spend about half of that. So what's going to happen to the remaining $3.5 million? If they want to spend money with a different vendor, Kyle, City Council will have to approve that first. So another vote.
That's not going to go over well with City Council because their biggest critique of the mayor's plan is that it's a blank check without enough accountability.
And they wanted kind of more of an update, like, hey, keep us in check, let us know what you plan to do with this, and kind of just reiterated to Cole Chandler, hey, it's not just free money, there's a process here. So kind of a back and forth discussion during committee meeting this week.
Kelly Rinke, thank you. For decades, a group of women in northern Colorado have been quietly helping out other women in their community who find themselves in a tough spot, actually writing them a check after, say, the loss of a job or the death of a spouse, a health diagnosis, or maybe when somebody needs to escape domestic violence. In the last day, you have raised more than $10,000 to help them help even more women. Your latest Word of Thanks microgiving campaign is supporting the nonprofit called A Woman's Work. This is the 175th straight week that you have pooled your $5 micro donations to do good somewhere in Colorado. A Woman's Work sorts through applications that come in, often through schools or community groups. This is in the St. Vrain Valley in Weld and Boulder counties. The applicants asking for a bit of help are anonymous to the nonprofit's panel, so neighbors can ask for assistance without shame or stigma. And the nonprofit gets checks out fast, like within days. These are times when a bit of money can make a huge impact. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get the link to join me in donating to the A Women's Work. Since 2020, your Word of Thanks microgiving campaigns have raised more than $11 million for nonprofits across our state. The biggest issue on our ballots also happens to be the most complicated, which is why we are again tonight cutting through the spin that you're seeing in ads about Prop HH to be clear about its impact on your money. And the state is so worried about these tiny mussels, a whole lake is going to be drained. Which reminds me, if you'd like to grab some fish, go for it. Only 5 zebra mussels have been found in Highline Lake north of Grand Junction, but they are such prolific little suckers, one female can produce 30,000 eggs, the state is going to drain the entire lake to get rid of them. Those dime-sized mussels can jump from lake to lake, from river to stream on the bottom of boats and things like that. CPW says what they're going to do is they are going to lower Highline Lake's levels throughout 2024, and they plan to totally empty it by the end of next year. So that means it is literally open season for the fish in the lake. The state is lifting limits so people fishing there can take as many as they want. And Danielle, I mean, this is basically summer fishing weather. Here we are mid to late October. So go out to Highline Lake in western Colorado and bring some buckets.
Get after it, right?
Get after it, as they say.
Yes, why not? And the weather, fantastic. Bright blue skies, we've had so much sunshine, and yeah, a pretty comfortable one too. Maybe a light jacket, depending on the time of day you're heading out. Otherwise, it has been so stunning. And can we talk about the gorgeous fall colors too? Up around the maroon bells, they are looking good, of course, with the yellows still shining out there. Stunning. 80s out at downtown Denver, 83 in Greeley this afternoon, 80s lining up the eastern plains. I mean, these temperatures are running a solid 15 degrees above our average. Up in the mountains, still equally as gorgeous. A little cooler, but not bad. High pressures around not just Colorado, but the entire west is looking at above average temperatures too. Tough to find many clouds out there. That sunset looking good on a Thursday evening. High pressure is going to continue to be the dominant feature of our weather pattern really for the next couple of days. Tomorrow we anticipate our temperatures to climb just a couple more degrees, so that means we are heading into record territory. Tomorrow's record 83, it was last set back in 1950. It looks like it's going to be a record high tie tomorrow. My forecast also sitting at 83. Even warmer across the southeastern corner of the state. state, highs closer to 90, and then up in the mountains, some 60s and 70s, nothing but sunshine. Get a jump start on the weekend, and wow, you're in for a treat if you're heading up to the mountains or even staying here in town. I do have a little front that's going to sneak in. It's obviously not going to bring us much in the way of rain, but it will definitely help to cool us off ever so slightly over the weekend, back to the 70s. Still nice if you're heading out to the Broncos game on Sunday. Still looking good Monday, and then another storm system rolls in Tuesday. Few isolated showers, a brief break, and then a stronger storm system next Thursday. Finally feeling like fall. We'll get some rain in the bucket as we wind down October, and hopefully a little snow up in the mountains.
Thank you, Danielle. One kind of assistance that some of our neighbors get through Denver Human Services is the kind that really can't wait. It's help buying groceries week to week. And that's why last month, DHS launched a program trying to get people those funds more quickly. Our Byron Reed takes a look.
Sometimes the advice that travels with us through life are the most important lessons to live by.
If you don't pay attention, you will be taken advantage of. And that's one thing that as kids we were taught, and as grown-ups you should follow.
Jermaine Blackman is a Denver resident that now has an easier way to get access to his funds.
It's probably the easiest way to go grocery shopping.
He's one of about 100 residents using Denver Human Services' new EBT e-lockers, a system that makes it faster and easier for people to access their food assistance benefits.
An EBT card is an electronic benefits transfer card, which allows people who are receiving financial assistance through Denver Human Services to access those benefits.
Victoria Aguilar is the Public Information Officer for DHS. She says the new program was launched last month and will help remove barriers for people to get access to their cards quicker.
We understand that there are some community members that might not have a permanent mailing address. That includes our unhoused neighbors. We also understand that there are people who work within our business hours.
Aguilar says so far they've had more than 100 cards delivered the day after the request is made.
This resource is an example of Denver Human Services meeting people where they are in their need.
Blackman says the new system gives him peace of mind.
We're in a different climate once again as far as security.
While remembering a lesson learned when he was a kid.
I could just walk to the locker and pick up my card. Safety.
For Next, I'm Byron Reed.
Denver Human Services says, as far as they know, they're the only place in the country that is using this kind of system, and they plan to expand the e-lockers to other locations around the city. Opponents of the big tax question on your ballot this year want to convince you that it will cost you more. Our truth test on that, next. Prop HH is the biggest, most hotly contested issue on your ballot this November. Those ballots should arrive in the mail this week. This issue is complicated, but essentially it would take some of your taxpayer Bill of Rights refund money in exchange for a partial decrease in the steep property tax hikes that are coming. Tonight, we put an ad against Prop HH to the truth test.
Proposition HH, misleading, devious, a con.
That's the opinion of the conservative dark money group opposing Prop HH.
Under HH, property taxes still skyrocket, and HH guts the taxpayer's Bill of Rights.
That is true. While the terms skyrocket and guts are subjective, it is accurate to say that property taxes will still go up significantly if HH passes. That's because home values have increased so much. And HH would reduce taxpayer Bill of Rights refunds year after year.
HH will end taxpayer refunds. For good.
That needs context. It's possible that the refunds could drop to nothing, but it is not guaranteed, and it depends on a complicated set of factors.
That's a $5,000 tax increase on families.
That, too, needs context. If Prop HH passes, both property tax bills and tax refunds would decrease. Some Coloradans would pay more in taxes, some will pay less.
And a multi-billion-dollar blank check for politicians.
Once again, that needs context. Prop HH would take taxpayer refund money and have it spent on education at the direction of elected school boards. So not so much of a blank check as just a really big check. So Prop HH is complicated and important. This deserves a good debate. So what do you say we have it? 9 News and our partners of the Denver Gazette are hosting a debate on Prop HH. It'll be live next Monday at 7 p.m. Our Marshall Zellinger will moderate. Governor Jared Polis will debate in favor of it. He's up against the head of the group that made that anti-Prop HH ad you just saw. Debate will stream live on 9 News Plus and 9news.com. Your questions always send us in interesting directions. Did you know there was originally going to be 2 towers along the 16th Street Mall? Tonight's next question comes from a viewer named Steve, wondering why the Tabor Center never got that second tower. Question, Steve. When the Tabor Center was built in the 80s, the plans involved a 3-level shopping mall along the 16th Street Mall, a 19-story hotel, and 2 towers. Developers built everything but that second tower, and then there was a real estate bust. The complex was built with 2 towers in mind, and developers kind of come along every few years with plans to finish the job. Latest proposal was submitted to the city in 2018, but then that developer got bought by another company. That company says they have no current plans to come along and build the Tabor Center's long-missing second tower. Each evening around here ends with you getting the final word. Your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a sad statement about the current state of the Denver Broncos. Next viewer named Carl spotted a bit of orange in a trash can on his morning walk, looked closer and realized that's a bunch of Broncos gear. Somebody is giving up. They are done. I mean, Broncos are 1-5. There's not a lot of reasons for optimism from here on out. That said, you sure you aren't going to want any of that Broncos gear next year? I don't know. If you see something that you would only see in our state, email it our way, next@9news.com, or get our attention with the hashtag #HeyNext. I'll tell you something that does not feel like Colorado, Danielle, which is this dry October that we're stuck in.
I know. It has just been like rinse, lather, repeat as far as the sunshine and the above average temperatures. We have only had 1/100th. I mean, that's like a drop in the bucket. Pretty much nothing when we look at the entire month here in Denver. Typically, we should be closer to about 6,500s, and the entire month on average just shy of an inch. So we have not seen anything, and the reason is because of the jet stream pattern that is set up throughout really much of this month has been putting this ridge of high pressure right over Colorado and sending the storm track well to our north and then off to the northeast. So we have been stuck under this huge dominant ridge, and that is what has been bringing us all of the heat around here. With that being said, we had such a soggy spring that definitely helped us out here in eastern Colorado as far as our drought conditions. These are new numbers in. We remain fairly unchanged from last week, but you can still see abnormally dry conditions in yellow and then severe drought starting to pop up around Montrose and again out toward Alamosa. So we need some rain around here. Again, it's coming our way, Kyle, but not till next week.
Thank you, Danielle. We finish, as always, with your feedback, and this may actually be a first in the 7 years of Next, but I don't think that we got negative feedback tonight. Listen, you choose, I read, right? Shirley says, I'm sorry that you all have to cover increased security at places of worship, but she said that Marshall did it well and equitably. Ed writes in to say, talking about our truth test now, taking apart Prop HH ads. We did another one last night. You can find that in the next section, 9news.com. Ed writes, if everyone knows that the media will tell us when people are lying, they might stop lying. And David writes in to say, thank you for your brave and insightful commentary about political violence. I get that it is uncomfortable to talk about. I think that's the reason why you don't see it on a lot of other media outlets. But there is a rise in political violence and rhetoric like it in Colorado. We got to talk about it. See you next time.